We do have comments that we heard from Virginia Senator Mark Warner. I assume that there may be some similarities between what they had to say. There was an interview with Warner not long ago, just hours ago, yesterday actually. And so we'll play a little bit of his response again to what's going on, and we'll come back after that.
In the past, we have resolved these by bipartisan negotiations. This time it's kind of a take the deal or nothing, and I strongly believe as Virginians are going to be getting their notices of dramatically increasing health care costs that are supposed to go out this month. I've heard there's some effort to delay informing Virginians before the gubernatorial election, which would be pretty dastardly. We ought to be able to resolve that as well as make sure we keep the government open. And the irony is, for those who say, well, you can do that later, well, notices go out on healthcare costs going up this month, and people have to sign up next month. They won't sign up with the higher costs. These trains need to run in parallel. That being said, I'm still hopeful that that bipartisan conversation can break out. There are a number of us that have been talking. I think nobody wins, and particularly our federal workers, who this administration continues to threaten, coerce, and using the OMB director's own language, terrorize, is awful. I will say that the overwhelming majority of federal workers who've been in touch with me over the last few weeks have said they feel like they've been in a continuous shutdown already for the last 7 months. They feel like they've never been under more assault, and they want us to push back. Whether that'll be the case in a few weeks, I don't know, but that was the clear message I had received from federal workers. My hope is we can see progress. As somebody who's been proud of being in part of every bipartisan group since I've been in the Senate, I think cooler heads should and could prevail, but we will stay tuned. One last thing before we get to questions, I'm sure you've got a lot, is that, I do think that the most hopeful sign that I've seen in the last 36 hours doesn't have anything to do with the shutdown, but it has to do with what happened when Secretary of Defense basically ordered 800 of our senior military officers to Quantico to receive a lecture on grooming and how to be physically fit for combat. These leaders have commanded troops, have fought in our nation's battles, and on top of that, then the president lectured them for over an hour. The thing that I want to say proudly is thank you to our military, because unlike virtually every other institution that has bent the knee, the media, universities, law firms, businesses, the military yesterday, I think, demonstrated by their decorum their absolute loyalty to the Constitution. That filled me with hope, because so many institutions are allowing excesses and breakings of laws and norms to go unquestioned and unheeded. I came away from the remarkable display of professionalism from our military leadership, frankly, glad that that institution is going to maintain its loyalty to the Constitution and to being non-political. That is important news for, I think, all of us in this country. So with those comments, I'll turn it over and we'll start getting the questions.
Senator, the first question is from Margaret Barthel at WAMU.
Hey, Val, somebody's going to have to turn up the volume a little bit. I can't hear you.
Senator, can you hear now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, our first question is from Margaret Barthel with WAMU. Margaret, are you there? Okay, we'll go with Dan with ARL now. Okay, we'll move on to Jamal Williams with WRIC.
Good afternoon, Senator. How are you doing?
Good.
Hello?
Yes, good. Thank you.
Ask you specifically. I know Democrats have been trying to keep ACA health tax credits basically for people who need health insurance, and so that way costs don't continue to go up for that. I wanted to know that if you do vote yes, will that have to be included in the resolution, or if not, how long do you see this, government shutdown prolonging if you guys don't vote yes? If you vote yes and this is not included on the provision.
Here's what we've got to resolve. I mean, if you take an average couple who buys their health insurance through the exchange and say they're making $80,000 a year and they're in their mid-60s, they're going to get a health care increase of about $800 a month. Most folks I know can't afford that. So that will be in an economy that is already where affordability is the top issue. It is going to slam families at an unprecedented rate. And the fact is that even if you don't buy your health insurance through the exchanges, when you combine the Medicaid cuts and pricing people out of the health insurance market, even if you get your health insurance through an employer, your rates are going to go up. You can't take, and say in Virginia, 600,000 or 700,000 people and throw them into the emergency room without everybody's costs going up. And we know that there will be rural hospitals around Virginia that will close their doors. We can't sit idly by and let that happen. So it needs to be addressed. Our belief is it needs to be addressed at the same time as the government funding. We've said that for weeks and weeks on end. And I think there's a way to get to a deal. On top of that, I would point out there's another crisis brewing at this point across our farming communities, including in Virginia, but even more in the Midwest. Because of President Trump's tariffs, we have farmers, particularly soybean farmers, who are going to declare bankruptcy because they sold 50, 60, 70% of their crop to China, and now China's not buying. So if there's going to be an agricultural relief, if we can provide the healthcare relief, we've got to make sure that the economy keeps running and that people are not priced out of their ability to put up with cost of living. I think those issues, they're important, they're timely, and they need to be addressed now. And again, I've got a lot of Republican friends who are talking to me about that quietly. Let's see what happens.
So that was obviously Virginia Senator Mark Warner speaking to reporters about the shutdown and his concerns. And now we're going to go on the other side of the aisle to Republican Congresswoman Jen Kiggans from here in Hampton Roads to hear her comments on the shutdown.
It's been frustrating for me personally to live through what is a Schumer shutdown and to watch the Democrats play political games. I ran for office to do what's best for the country. And the fact that we are now in a shutdown situation because we're playing literally a political game that the Democrats have caused because they won't vote for a clean continuing resolution of 7 weeks to keep the government open until November 21st. Oh, by the way, they have voted for this 13 times during a Biden administration. A lot of us have voted for that. I've never voted to not keep the government open. And when it's a common sense vote like this, to just give us 7 more weeks to continue to do our work, to talk about all the things the American people care about, it's been extremely frustrating to know that they won't do what's best, they won't put the country first, and we're just playing partisan games.
So that was Kiggans responding. Obviously, both sides putting a lot of blame on the other, and you heard her call it the Schumer shutdown. Of course, that's in reference to Senator Chuck Schumer. She also talked about her desire to make sure that troops can get paid in the situation like this of a shutdown. She has a bill that she's been pushing that has not been passed yet. Here are her comments on the Pay Our Troops Act that she's trying to get forward.
My Pay Our Troops Act that I have introduced 4 times since I've been in Congress and have had the reassurance from my leadership in the Republican majority that bill will be considered first when we reopen the floor in the U.S. House. It's a priority of mine that we take care of our military members in uniform and our Coast Guard and their families, and that we reassure them that they will continue to get paid. There is no reason why we need them to worry about that and to cause that type of anxiety. So that continues to be a priority of mine, and I will continue to fight for that and make sure that when we do get back to doing floor work and voting on bills again, that is one of the first things we vote on. I always have the backs of our military families.
Again, that bill, the Pay Our Troops Act, would guarantee that all active duty service members, including those in reserves and National Guard, receive their paychecks in the event of a government shutdown like we are in right now. And so we're just playing through all of the various comments that we're hearing from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, as we're just hearing from them that they're not necessarily closer to reaching a deal at this moment in day two of this shutdown.